window later next week. I haven't checked next weekend. It gets better as the week goes on, I know that. So hopefully we'll get a chance next weekend. It's sort of like everyone's got their gear so ready now because everyone's just been waiting and waiting and waiting. And for the guys that do get out there, they're getting a few fish. To be honest with you, there's been mackerel and marlin out there for about probably 2 months now, but it's been really, you've got to be really good at doing it, or you've got to be lucky on the day that they're biting. They're not really here consistent, but they have been consistent the last few days, okay? Although the bite period today was a terrible bite period. So anyone go this morning at all by any chance? No, I went this morning. So today was meant to be 15 to 20. I've been away for a few days and I got back late yesterday, and I was going to go this morning before this. I wanted to get a little bit of footage, but the forecast was 15 to 20 straight up this morning. And I thought, I'm not going to get that crap, no way. I woke up about 7 and it was like 3 knots, whatever it was. And then it got better for a little bit to about probably 9, then the wind started coming a little bit with the rain. So, there was a window this morning, but I spoke to one of my mates. He's a really good mackerel fisherman. He did go out and the bite period today was terrible. It was like a baby little fish. Normally there's 3 or 4 big ones, you know. And he got one bite. I think he got bitten off. That was it. And he said there's quite a few guys there this morning too, but he didn't see anything get caught. Yesterday, quite a few fish caught. Yesterday there was 2 fish on the bite chart. So yesterday was a better bite period. This next 7 days is a really bad bite period, which is really good because the weather's crap. Okay, but I know what you guys are going through. I'm the same too. I'd rather be out there and catch nothing than not be able to get out. That's the painful part. So anyhow, we're all in the same boat, so to speak. But anyhow, Stewie should be here in a minute. He's coming. So my suggestion would be get your gear ready. Really check your gear because you don't want to lose these mackerel, and try and get out there. Obviously not this weekend, but next weekend, and be ready to go. And adopt what we're doing tonight. If you're not already doing it, try and enhance your fishing by listening and doing what we're going to talk about. And it's really important that you obviously check your bow, check everything. It's all part of the parcel. Make sure you get the right mates to go fishing with, and make sure they know how to gaff fish and all that sort of stuff. Because if you get that one fish on, you don't want to lose it, right? Stewie. He's coming by the sound of it. Here he comes. Sorry, Stewie, just waiting, mate. Just waiting and waiting and waiting. It's all good. So still 2 gentlemen to come?
Still 2 to come.
Yeah, okay. So we'll start off. They can watch it later and catch up on it. Is that on it? Second? Okay. So guys, I'm Dougie Bird. This is Stuart Grice. We're a couple of the many staff here, and we try to help you guys out as best we can. I know a lot of you and a lot of us I've met for the first time, so welcome along. And hopefully tonight we can improve your fishing.
That's it.
Right, Stewie. So our job is to not only sell it, but to use it and test it, which is a good part of our job.
Yeah, product testing is a big thing.
It is.
And it's really important. Doug?
Yeah.
So I'll take it tomorrow off. No, I'm not.
Yeah. And it's the only time I get an excuse for my wife to go fishing if I'm product testing and trying to get a bit of video footage. But we love it, and there's so much new tackle coming out all the time, and you look at it, you just go, oh my God, this is going to work so well. Or you look at it and go, that's crap, and hide it over there. We try not to recommend that to you guys, or we don't buy it in. But there's a lot of stuff here that does work. So we're going to do probably 4 different things tonight. We're going to talk about, obviously, trolling, and it'll be both Spanish and spotties. We're going to talk about casting metals at spotties and Spanish, and casting stick baits at Spottish and Spanish, and lures. And then we're going to do jigging for Spottish and Spanish, okay? Spotties and Spanish, sorry. And try and cover that all in the session we have tonight. We'll be talking about the gear. I think we'll talk about each subject. We'll talk about the gear we use as we're going along with it, rather than show you everything at the start and get mixed up where it's going to be used, okay? So we will start probably with the most popular thing, which is trolling for Spanish mackerel. So it's one of my favourites, both with lures and with baits, but tonight's all lures, okay? So the main thing to do is to make sure you've got plenty of line in your reels, because you've got about 60 metres of line at the back, or 40 minimum. You're fishing a lot further back than you are for, say it's marlin. So I post my lures at about 40, 60, maybe even 80 sometimes, but 40 to 60 is about where I like to sit them at. And if I've got 4 lines out, I'll spread them out. But when I'm marlin fishing, I'm running like 4 or 5 lures at once. But when I'm mackerel fishing, I tend to run 3. I don't run any teasers for mackerel as well, because I find I just sort of, they might get bitten off, or they get in the way sometimes. It's a bit different to marlin fishing. Marlin fishing, they're jumping around. You have time to get stuff in or whatever. With mackerel, they're quite fast. They run towards you, they run that way. And quite often you get a double hook up and it's just too much mayhem. So that's why I troll 3 rods instead of 5 as well. But if you want to troll 5, that's up to you guys. But make sure you've got at least 3 guys on the boat. I'd recommend that all know what they're doing. You do hear guys that say they get 3 fish in on their own or 5 fish on their own, but I don't know who those guys are. I don't know if it's true or not, but anyhow, that's them. So rods and reels, so I troll with everything, guys. Like my gears, and Stewie's gear is better than my gear. Starsoy's better than the owners. Yeah. But my gear's a bit of misfit stuff, but I like to look at every scenario to what you guys might have at your home. And I've got cheap stuff I use, and if it breaks, I know it's not any good for mackerel or whatever it might be. And I've got really good stuff as well. But I always grab stuff that's quickest for me to grab out of my massive pile of fishing rods that are in a mess. So whatever's there, I just grab. So sometimes it'll be an egg beater on a rod, sometimes it'll be like an overhead, it could be a jig reel. I troll the whole lot. So there's no specific saying you just got to use the overheads to troll. It's not true. And it all works for me. I don't know what you're used to it, but
yeah, it's the same thing. Like it's just whatever you've got that you can make work type of thing. We're not here to sell you new rods for every single fish. It would be nice if you've got the money come our way, but you do have rods that do everything.
So let's start that TLD, mate. So the TLD 20 is probably one of our biggest sellers for marlin, mackerel, dolphin fish, the whole works. If you've got something like that at home, or if you haven't got something that's what you need, a combo like that will set up to around about $300, or just over, with a lot wind on stuff. These are on a fairly good rod. It's not a cheaper rod that you see around some other combos, and that's got 15 kilo on it. Yeah, so that's your base outfit trolling for Spanish, and it works really well. And lever drag, but star drags work fine as well. Okay, you've got a torium there.
I do.
So how many guys here do sort of jigging for kingies and stuff like that? Yep, a few of you do. So if you've got any of your sort of kingy type, fast type jigging outfits are fine. So that's a little torium 20 on a little jig rod. That trolls exceptionally well. Now, big question is, do you troll braid or do you troll mono? That's a really good question. A lot of people probably want to know. I use both, but I use mainly braid. That's me, okay? I never lose a fish to braid when I'm trolling for mackerel. Even marlin sometimes too, but definitely for mackerel. My braid's generally around that sort of 40 to 80 pounds, and I find it works really well. Okay, I always run a long leader at the sort of 80 pound mono or 50 pound fluorocarbon. I really like to use 50 pound fluorocarbon for my trolling, and it just seems to work really well on my lures. I run it straight down to the lure with no wire, and I run just a big snap swivel at the end, or I do a loop knot, and it works really good. My lead is about 6 metres long. Just take a bit of stretch in it. Most of these little jig sticks have a fairly soft tip on it as well, so there's a bit of give there as well on the fish, as is that one too.
And the idea with just trolling the braid is obviously being a lot thinner. You can run your lures further out, and they dive a lot deeper.
Deeper, yeah.
Yep. And fluoro as opposed to your mono leader, Dougie, main difference?
Fluoro's a bit more aggressive. It doesn't have the same stretch as mono, but definitely it's thinner. Oh, not thinner, but you can go thinner. So 50 pound fluorocarbon has a similar abrasion resistance to 80 pound mono. So you can add half to the weight for the similar abrasion resistance. So 50 and 80 is similar, but the 50 is obviously thinner than 80, so your lures get down deeper again. Okay, because if you use an 80 pound mono on a small lure, it's going to drag it up a bit.
Yeah, it's just resistance.
Yeah, resistance.
Yeah, drag. Yep.
And not that we've got. Oh, that's a flasher version. Okay, just to show you that now.
Yeah.
So
Flasher version of the TLD.
Yeah, so it's flasher version. Some of you may have these new Speedmasters. It's a Shimano reel. They're 2-speed. They are like a Talika, but they're a cheaper version of a Talika. Okay, really, really good. It's on a tag and rod. Something like that is around just over $500. It's pulled up. And I do troll with big egg beaters too. I don't have the exact outfit here. Actually, that middle one there, the grappler. So even if I grab the wrong rod, which often happens, but I would definitely troll with that as well. So that's a little 5 or 6 too?
6.
6.
Yep.
So which is my micro jig type rod, right? But if I've got something like that with 50-pound braid on it, that's a P3 rod, I think. With that, I definitely troll with that as well. And I still troll up to probably a 30x wrap on it, that sort of size. The tip's going to be bent and working, and the tip's going to be sort of at about that position when I'm trolling, okay? But it works fine. So what I'm trying to get at is it doesn't have to be Pacific, but if you've got something in that range of rods, you're trolling, okay? That's what it boils down to. Obviously, as I was saying earlier, I don't know about like a Kmart combo is not going to cut the grade too good. You need to have a little bit of quality to it. So getting back to braid and line, mono line, like I still troll my Tiagas sometimes with mackerel because they're there, so I just grab them. I'm pretty rough on my gear. But anyhow, 8 kilo, I've got lots of Spanish mackerel on 8 kilo, but it's a bit of a hassle, bit long to get the fish in. I find when the mackerel on the bite, it's like a real strong bite period for a very short period. Different to marlin and other species which may go on for a few hours. Mackerel have a really Pacific, like a 1 hour session or a 1.5 hour session, shorter. Okay, so I will generally like a bit heavier lines, like 15 kilo mono, if I'm going to use mono. But as I said before earlier, in braid, 50 or 40 to 80, something in that bracket. Nothing under 40 though. Okay. What Stewie said before, I was going to get some cheaper braid just to show the difference, but I don't know if we got any 50 poundies, Stu, just the normal stuff. That's right. I'll pass this around. And how many people here use braid? Have used braid? Has anyone not used braid before? Okay, so you all know how braid feels, right? So I'll pass this around, and you can have a guess at the size of it when it gets to the end of you people there. So this is what we're talking about braid, how thin it is and how good it is. Sorry about starting before you get here, matey. Front row, mate.
Thank you.
Yeah, good, mate. How you doing today?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, good. How you going, matey? Did you catch any fish last time?
Sorry?
You've been here before, haven't you?
Yeah,
How'd you go last time?
Yeah.
Yeah, got some?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, good. So, just pass that around, guys. So just pass around some braid, guys, just to show the gentleman how the braid thickness is these days. We'll come back to that in a minute. So that's the sort of braid I'd troll on that last rod I had, which is that lighter rod, okay? Or maybe a smaller overhead, but I'd troll that as well. Okay, any questions on rods and reels and the braid? No, we'll go down to the lures now. So just to let you know too, a lot of guys run a top shot every year, but in reverse to the way we'd normally fish for marlin. So normally with marlin we have like braid under and then mono top. But for mackerel fishing, a couple of my reels are mono under and braid top. And I'll change the braid every year as it gets down a little bit. Does that make sense? So I'm actually running like a 30-pound mono under and just putting 200 metres of 50-pound or whatever on top, or 300 metres on top, which is the way we normally pack our reels up.
Yeah, exactly right, yeah.
And you just top shot every year, or every couple of years. In braid too, just so you know, in braid there's like different, unfortunately there's a new braid coming out which I'd like to show you, I haven't got it here tonight, it's not in until sort of next week, but with the braid, as they get more expensive, they last longer. So when you're buying braid, when you buy braid off Japan as a supplier, as a wholesaler, the braid comes in like not so much the quality of the filament that's made with, as in like that's using that material. It's called year. So it'd be like a 1 year, 2 year braid, or a 3 to 5 year braid, or a 5 to 7 year braid. That's how they sell it. So the dearer ones, which are like $160 a spool, that's normally a 5 to 7 year braid, which means it lasts 5 to 7 years on your rod, if you can keep it on there that long. And a lot of braids, which are cheaper braids, are only a 1 to 2 year braid. And that's how they say which quality you want. Do you want that one, or that one? And there's a lot in between too. It actually goes down to 2 years, 6 months.
Yeah,
I found that today actually.
Yeah, okay.
So YGK is a Japanese manufacturer of braid. They're the biggest manufacturers in the world. They supply all divers, Shimano, Sunline. They make it for everyone. I think they supply 92% of the world's braids in Japanese-made braid.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that's how they do it. So I learned that today. So the braids, and we can tell you straight away, or you can tell by the price point, roughly where it sits. So anything that sort of retails about $100 is about at least a 3-year lifespan. Just so you guys know, 'cause a lot of people say to us, how long should I change my braid? And we'd like to say you change every year, but that's not the case. So if it's like 150 retail, 149 retail plus to 200, it's going to be at least a 5-year braid. Okay. And if it's a $30 braid, then it's not going to last very long, unless it's 150 metres or 100 metres. Okay, lures. So get back to the lures now. So we're trolling, okay, guys. So we're going through the gear, then I'll show you how to do it. With the lures, so everyone has their favourite deep diving lures, whether it be Rapalas or be X-Wraps. They're X-Wraps, or Helcos or Nomads or whatever it may be. The DTXs are really good lures. I find most lures work. It's the depth that you need to look at more than the brand of the lure. And then the next thing I look at is the colours. Some days they're really colour specific. So it doesn't mean having like 10 different colours in your boat, but you need to have probably 3 or 4. So sometimes they really like red and white. Red and white's probably one of our biggest sellers, Australia-wide, but on the Gold Coast it doesn't seem to work as good as say up north. But it does work out here. It has a hot day, has hot days that it works really well. So, but generally speaking, the colours that seem to work really well here are natural colours like blues, purples, and probably just white. White's really good too. Whether you're white redhead or white. Greens are good. Stewie's favourite colour.
Still like orange. Yeah.
Orange is a great colour. There's a colour we had years ago in that same brand there that you guys have got in your bag. Orange. We don't do it at the moment and can't get it at the moment, but it was a fantastic lure. It was an opaque colour, so it's not a clear colour, it was an opaque colour, like that, and it was really good. Oh, this one I think is slightly see-through. No, it's opaque. Yeah. But orange at times, so if you've got an orange one or maybe pink, and you've got a blue one and a purple one, and maybe a green of some type, that would be the 4 colours I'd have at least in my boat, and try and work out what they're biting on the day. Okay. There's a lot of natural colours too, and there's metallic colours like Rapalas. They do this metallic range, which are really, really good as well. And metallic sometimes is the key, so it's flicking off light. And a lot of your DTX minnows are like holographic metallic as well, so they work really well as well. It's in the Nomad range. And then you've got things that are like bait fish, like samakis. This was probably our biggest seller the last 2 years, I guess. The samaki pacemakers. Anyone use those earlier? They're kick butts.
Yeah, so they troll at like reasonably quick speed.
Yeah.
And they hold in really good hooks, good colours as well.
So when you're trolling for Spanish, you generally troll around that sort of 6 to 7 knots. Sometimes you'll go 8 knots down the swell, and sometimes 4 up the swell. I've caught many fish down the swell going fast, and I've caught many fish where I've actually hooked one up at 6 knots, slow the boat down to say 2 knots or 1 knot, and I'm going with the wind, just fighting the fish, and next to my other lure's taken off, and it's just kicking along that 1 knot, So, but the trouble is to troll at 1 knot, unless you know they're really thick in that area, you're not going to get the ground coverage, you're not going to get the depth. So that might have just been a couple of times a lost fish, I don't know, but it has worked. So samakis make a really good range. We've got more of those coming out that we've run out in most colours at the moment. But they're really good. They do 2 sizes as well. So size is the next thing. What size lures do I troll? So generally have 2 sizes in your boat. Some days they're feeding on little pillies or whatever, and other days they're feeding on slimies or whatever it might be, or yakkers. So your size difference is probably going to be something in, I'll pass these 2 here around, that's in green. You'll see that if you've got something in those 2 sizes there, which come in many different brands, you're on the money. So most of these bigger lures, including the one you've got in your bag there, get down, as Stu was saying, if you're especially running on braid, that'll get down 10 metres easy at the moment. Has anyone seen the fish on the sound the last sort of week since the fish are sort of starting to show up? They're really starting to show up in the last week on the sounder. They're not biting crazy yet, but they're there. Exactly, matey.
Yeah.
So they weren't biting though? No. The bite time yesterday, actually it should have been in the morning straight up at daylight, but it seemed to be a low tide coming into the start of the run in around about 10:30 to about 1 yesterday. I don't know if you were out at that time, but that's when they were. Yeah, I've been up Noosa, as I said, and my mate rang me yesterday. He was out there and he had nothing. It was about 8 o'clock, and I said, just hang on to about 10:30 to 1, and Jason hooked up 3.
Yeah.
The first one was at 10:38, and the last one is about 12:30, I think. Yeah, but it's a tide change, obviously bite, but you need something. So on that sounder shot at the moment, I'll just real quickly draw it on here. Sorry guys, real quickly. But with that just screen on the sounder, and this is the bottom here. Oh, not that one. Can you all see that okay? See bottom here's, I just want to turn that around for a sec. Sorry guys, keep them happy at home. But I'll come up with that. This is zoomed in obviously, but the mackerel always show up as just a straight line or a slight curved line. They're never a thick body fish, they're just like lines. So you'll have your bait here, quite dense, but the mackerel will just be like that. They'll just look like that. Have you seen that sort of system yet? That's mackerel. Okay, and no matter where you are, whether they're sitting out here in the paddock, they'll just be like that. They're just straight lines, like that. That's how they look. And but at the moment there's lots. Did you see the sounder down there the other day, mate? Sorry. Did you see lines on your sounder the other day? Yeah, heaps like that. And at the moment they're down. Like if that's sort of, let's say 40 metres deep there, and that's 0 there. They seem to be at about 18 to 30 metres, so they're fairly down deep. Okay, but when you troll on these lures at 10 metres down or 8 metres down, they'll come up to that real easy, even from 30 metres. Okay, otherwise you've got to start using down riggers and bait fishing, which is we do another time. But definitely these guys here or those guys there will come up to your lures that are sitting around about here. I'll say around that depth there, on that 40 metre depth. They'll easily come up to it. Okay.
So Doug, on your sounder, are you bottom locking?
No, I'm not on so much on, definitely not on mackerel. I run 0 to 40. Okay. Yeah, or 0 to 50, sorry, yep. If I'm in, say, 40 metres. Yep. And because sometimes you will get the odd schools up higher, there might be a bit of bait pushed up, and you'll see them all up here. So they obviously got to go down to your lure. But those ones you can actually start casting stick baits out and whatever, metals and stuff. So I run it all the way, because if I just had it on that area there, I can't see what's up that above it, sort of thing. That's probably a bit of an over-exaggeration. That should be a bit smaller, and they should be down a bit lower, sorry. But yeah, that's a big, I don't think there's any pinnacles that big out in our, off the seaway. But anyhow, if you know about it, tell me please. There's so many different brands of lures, guys. I don't know how many brands. We've got probably around about 30 different trolling deep divers down there at the moment in brands, and then hundreds of colours to go with it. Yeah. But some of my favourites would definitely be Helco's X-Wraps. Definitely the one you got in your bag, the Strata Pro. I don't know how many fish I caught on those, and they've been very good for us over the years. Definitely Samakis. The Nomads, I haven't had big lots of luck on, but a lot of our customers do, so Nomads are pretty good. I've had a lot of luck on the Blue Water series, which is this range here. I haven't tried their new colours that's come out around just before Christmas, which is that style, and I'll pass these around. That's the 2 sizes. They're like a holographic pearlescent type finish. Yet to try them, but the old solid colours work extremely well. So they're all deep divers, okay? Do you all understand how the bibs work on the lure? Does everyone understand when you're buying a deep diver versus a shallow diver? Because some people buy the lure, it looks great, but they go swimming and it only goes down 2 metres instead of 6 or 8. So the bibs, they generally have 3 different varying bib points, especially Helco. So Helco do a real shallow one like so, just a little tiny bib, okay? And that will go down about 2 metres at the most, no matter how far back you drop it or how light a line you put on, it just doesn't go down deep. And then they do their standard model, which is like a 190 deep, they call it deep, and it's got the longer bib on it, and then they do a crazy deep which has the fatter, bigger bib on it. So the more bigger that bib is, the more wider it is, like the X-Wraps and that one in your bag. They're actually long and fat, so they're going to get down the deepest. Okay, and the Helco do a crazy thing like that. It doesn't get down as deep as those, but it still gets down about probably 6 to 8 metres. Yeah, so that's with the fatter, bigger bib on it. That's the same size I got my foot. They hurt. But you get something like that fellow there, it's only got a little bib. Beautiful lure, little bib, but very good. Sometimes, as I said, they're up higher. That'll come, those guys at 20 metres down will definitely come up to that. Only goes down about 2 or 3 metres. But I'll pass that around too. That's a Japanese lure, it's very good. But it's all relevant to where the fish are in the sounder. So if you've got little shallow lures in your boat, and that's all you got, you either got to drop them a long way back and use your lightest line to get them down the deepest they can go, or you can start maybe put the barrel sinker on it and slow it down, because we put the barrel sinker on, like an 8-ounce barrel sinker to get it down. I'm just trying to improvise here, guys. Okay, so that's all you got in the boat. You've got no deep divers. And you need to run the barrel probably about 3 metres in front of the lure, and drop your speed back to about 3 or 4 knots, or 2 knots. And that'll get it right down to 10 or 15 metres, and hopefully you get a fish on it. Okay? But if you've got deep divers and the fish are shallow, they will go down to your deep diver, or you may have to slow the speed down so it doesn't get down as deep and bring it back shorter, and that'll make it go shallower. You'll understand how that works? Okay. Good. Fantastic. Okay. And then there's lures that go fast. So I'll pass these two around. These are two of the same X-Wrap, same colour, same everything. But try to understand this as well. So when a lure's sort of like shaped like that, like quite fat and round and long, obviously, they're designed for like maximum maybe 6 or 8 knots, and then or 9 knots they'll start to blow out of the water. So it's so fat they roll over. You're going too fast, it pushes them over. And then the really fast lures, they're like a more flat-sided and skinnier and hanging tight in the water. So the action's not as wild, because the wild, fatter type ones, the faster you go, they just get too much wobble up and they can't go off balance. And the skinnier ones, they just hang in there and go hard. But at slow speed, like 6 knots, the action's not as aggressive. It's not so nice, and the fish may not like it. But at 12 knots, they're fantastic. So, and you do catch mackerel at 12 knots, by the way, too. Obviously wahoo as well, but you get mackerel at that speed as well. So these two going around now, you can see the difference. And they've got a smaller bibs, they don't go down as deep. Because if you had a fast or deep, I think it'd probably rip the rod out of the rod holder. You'd have to crank your drag up on 8 kilo. To 8 kilo on 50-pound braid or something to stop it doing that. When I'm trolling mackerel, there's another thing too, guys, that's really important as well. Whether I'm trolling 15 kilo line or 80-pound line, I don't change the drag stronger on the drag to match the line. I just keep it at what I believe is the right feel to set the hooks, which is generally around 5 to 7 kilos on your strike. Does that make sense? And particularly on if you're running, say, 80-pound braid, and guys that are trolling 80-pound mono for big marlin or whatever, or dolphin fish, whatever, will crank the drag up to for strike at about 10 or 12 kilos. If you do that on 80-pound braid, it'll probably snap the braid, because there's no give, there's no stretch. And that's such a strong drag, and if something hits at that speed, it's just going to ping and snap it. So you can't put too strong a drag at troll speed on your lures on braid, okay? So keep it about 4, 5 kilos, 6 max, no matter how strong it is. If you're running 30-pound braid, I'll be running at about 3 or 2, not 5, okay? Does that all make sense? Yes, Johnny, how you going, mate?
Hey, would it pay if say you've got 4 rods there, you're trolling, would it pay to have a couple of different depths?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, for sure, matey. So your deepest ones are always at the closest, and your shallow ones are further back. And if you've got a case where you drive around and you see some a bit higher and some a bit deeper, perfect scenario, yes. Good work. Yep, so I'll be running probably at 25, maybe 35, and then 50 and 60 or something like that. Yeah. Yep. So you can still crisscross and whatever. You know, we all know what it's like. You're talking to your mate, you take your mind off the job for a second while you're doing 6 knots. The next minute you just run over your lines, like the boat just spins around. Especially got a bit of wind blowing or a bit of current or whatever it might be. It's quite easy for you just to go off course real quick. So you don't want to run over your lines and over your gear. Okay, then you got high speed lures. As we said before, that one that goes fast is a tight one. And you've got bibeless type ones like this type of thing here. Has anyone used bibeless lures for mackerel? They're really good. Particularly the smaller ones. This size here I really like to use for mackerel. This one is one I run out the further, so I'm going to run one out. And especially if I'm doing, say, two things I'll do use this lure for. One is if I'm travelling to the spot and it's a ship full day, it's blowing 20 knots and you don't do 9 or 12 knots, whatever. Phil, the other day, mate, you should have a bibeless one out the back. Drop it back a long way, 60 to 80 metres, which is at the moment, you probably have these out all the time because that's the case of the weather we're getting. But you drop it right back and you might drop a couple of divers in close. But they will definitely pick up anything that's at that speed, 9 knots, 12 knots. And they really go hard. You can't put too deep a divers in at that speed because they'll blow out the water. So, but you could run that other one that's coming around at the moment. You could run that with it in close. But I'll pass these bibeless around. That gives you different sizes as well.
Showing people at home as well. But
Yeah, sorry guys.
Yeah.
Sorry. And there's so many different brands. There's the bigger Helco one, there's River to Sea ones, there's a lot of different ones you can use as well. This is I bought all these that Shimano brought out many years ago, but they don't do them anymore. But they are a really good lure and people don't know about them. But these are called trick baits. They're a bibeless lure as well. They come unhooked, so you put your own hooks and rings on them. But they're Japanese made. And those fellows there, you troll again at like 10, 12 knots, whatever. You can troll them also at 2 or 3 knots. Because the way they've got that slide on there, the more slow you go, the more action it does. And the more faster you go, it just pulls up tight there and just hammers along like that. Okay.
Yeah, so you either just run like a split ring on it or a Hawaiian snap or a snap straight on. And I've smashed them on those. They work really good. And the beauty about it is if you're trolling along and you see those fish deeper down, you can just slow down and will dive down. They're quite heavy, so. But yeah. And they do a couple of different sizes as well. They do a real small one, more like for your spotty size, and then that's more your Spanish type size.
And they're about, like your price guys, about $13 or something. They're cheap for Japanese made lure. They're very good.
Who makes them?
The Shimano brought them out. They're called trick baits. Trick bait.
Yeah.
But you can't get them anymore. And then Shimano's still in Australia here. They're really popular. But for some reason, when Japan wants to just drop it, they just drop it. So, and because they were so good, we bought lots. But we still sell them all the time. But there's a lot of different ones. Some of them do come hooked up. Actually, I'll pass it on with hooks on them. The generally owner hooks are really good hooks as well. Most of the hooks on your lures are quite good quality. You don't need to change them. If you want sharper ones though, like the ones that come on that lure in your bag are very sharp. They're actually made by BKK. They're a really good hook. So it depends on the quality you want to go on your lure. Yeah, they've got like a flat side spear point, we call it. Spear point on there. Any questions on the lures, folks? I'm doing it. Yes, mate.
I noticed some of them had trebles and singles.
Yes.
What do you prefer?
Yeah, I prefer trebles. I'm a treble man. And I tried many times with singles and I've lost too many fish on singles, but that might just be my bad luck, I don't know. Has anyone here had bad luck on singles? Yeah. And anyone here bad luck on trebles? No one? No, exactly. So singles do make your lure swim nicer and better, and they do get down deeper because less drag, and you don't get the belly scratched off the lure because it's swinging all the time at 100 miles an hour, and it wears your lures out. But at the end of the day, trebles don't miss, is my motto. It's very rare you can lose a fish on a treble, unless once they're at 6 knots, that hook's in, and you got it pretty well. But there are a lot of lures that have singles, and some lures are designed to only be used with singles. Your X-Straps, they give you an option on both single and trebles, but most other brands just run trebles, so I'll be sticking with trebles.
No, run a lot of singles though.
They do,
Correct,
they do,
yeah.
but on their most their bib ones, they run trebles. Yeah. Single ones are more safer though. That's the only thing I can say. But they're a big hook. They're a big hook and they're hard to get out, most of the singles. These are a really good lure too, by the way. These are designed, what's his name? Is it, it's a gentleman from up at Weeper. They might be in here actually. Oh, Lance Butler. Lance Aboriginal gentleman. He's a guide, barramundi guide up at Weeper, I think it is, but he's been doing his mackerel fishing all his life. They are a kick butt lure. And they're a big lure. So there are big lures too, guys, that mackerel obviously take. In the X traps, they do a 40 size, which I didn't bring any here today. Oh, it might be 40, is it?
Yeah,
Oh, that's a 40, yeah. Pass that around too. So that's about as big as you want to troll. And that one you got to really troll, on about probably 50-pound line or 30-pound mono or 50-pound braid minimum, because it has a lot of drag. So I don't know if you've ever, anyone here used an X-Trap 40 before? Yeah, you know how hard, you nearly need your young fella to wind it up for you because it's too hard to pull in without the fish on it. Actually the lure fights more than the fish sometimes. Trying to wind it into the back of the boat when you stopped.
You've got to slow down.
You got to slow down, mate. You can't pull them in, right? That's right. Those ones you do have to put 8 kilo drag on because they just pull the line off. But they get down really deep. So if you had that on, say, 50-pound braid, 50-pound fluorocarbon leader, and dropped it back about 60 metres, I'd say you're sitting around about 60 feet down, 20 metres down, which is pretty deep. Yeah, and your rod will be, your line you drop right back there 60 metres, and it'll be probably swimming just behind the back of the boat because it's down that much of an incline.
Yeah.
Okay, but the rod will be like really going hard, but working well. Okay, so golden rules about trolling when you're trolling with our little hard bodies is, as I said, 6 knots, 7 knots, 5 to 7 knots is the premium speed, right? You may go slow, you may go faster, depending on the day, depending on the swell, depending on the wind conditions. But it's really important that you find out that right speed that they're going to bite on, because they will bite sometimes better at different speeds. When you get that, finally get that right strike, try and remember what speed you're doing straight up. When you hook the fish up, slowly pull the lever back on your throttle, but don't ever stop. Pull back about 2 knots. And when you get fish right near the boat, you may pull back a bit more. But don't ever go below 2 knots straight up, and don't go straight from 6 to 2, gradual. If you're on your own, you're better off doing that before you grab the rod out of the rod holder. Okay? And then when you get the rod holder, sometimes I'll give a big jerk on just to really set the hooks, but they should be ready in. I've never lost a fish by doing that, pulling out its mouth. I don't think I've never ever had a problem there. When you get fish close to the boat, obviously the boat will eventually go with the wind. If the wind's blowing 20 knots, then it's stronger than the 2 knots you're doing against it. It'll push the boat around, and then it'll go on 4 knots because the boat's picked up the wind. That's just the way it is. You'll still fight the fish to the boat, but don't let it stop. And that's the only time a treble doesn't work, or a single definitely doesn't work, is when you stop the boat and the fishes, the weights come off the fish and they seem to be able to shake their mouths and flick it out. Okay.
You put the other rods in?
Okay, that's a good question we talked about earlier. If you've got 3 rods out, I'd try and leave 1 still out there. I always leave 1 out there, mate. Like you know yourself, if the fish is over that side of the boat and you've got your line a long way out there and he's shorter, generally you can leave that 1 out. If your line's in close and he's in that area, I'd get it out of the way. But if you're on your own, if you're on your own, that time that you're still going forward but slowing down, if you've got a little bit of time to you can just wind the handle while you're driving your boat, or whatever you can do it, and then get the fish out of the holder. The fish will keep peeling the line off, but you're going to get it back in. The problem we face, which we never used to face years ago, sharks, particularly at Palmy and places like that, and even at the front here. So that more time it's in the water, stressed that it knows it's hooked up, the more time for a shark to come and grab it. So you've got to contemplate that at the same time as well. Never used to have that problem, Eddie. Like for 30 years, I never ever got sharked, ever, but the last 10 years, I've been, 6 years, shark deeps. So, yeah.
So you leaving them out for convenience? Or?
I leave them out to try and get another fish, generally speaking. Yeah. Not for convenience, no. Not because it's easiest to get the other fish in, because generally, sometimes it gets tangled up. But it's more to get another fish. Yeah. not that I'm greedy, but they travel in more than one normally. Okay. So any questions on trolling the lures, folks?
Yeah.
Yes.
Quick direction, let's say I'm a diamond, so I know where I'm going to go to start.
Yep.
I've carried my bait, had a fossick around,
Yep.
I've marked some of my bait. How am I trolling? North, south, east,
Yeah.
west?
Pete, good questions.
Okay.
So this is really funny because like I was at there a couple of weeks ago. Well, last Tuesday was last week. Sorry, Tuesday, Wednesday. When we went out Tuesday, Stu was with me, and the current enclosures ripping north from south to north. So that particular day, you'd have to troll from south to north to get the bite, more than north to south, which you normally do with the current, because they sit into the current, so you always go with the current normally. So if you had gone, not they weren't biting that day. There's a few fish around. We only saw 2 fish caught out of about 26 boats out there. That was down the gravel patch. But had he gone as per normal and just keep and go back up to another run again, you probably wouldn't have got a fish. But had he been going south to north with the current, you've got to know which way the current's going. So it's really important when you first get out there to perhaps pull up, get your rods all ready, clip your lures on, and just watch on your track which way you drifted.
So when was that? That was Tuesday of last week?
Last week, yeah.
Yep.
The day before Australia Day?
Correct.
No. That was no, Tuesday
It
last
was.
week.
Yeah, it was.
That's right.
Oh, it was. Yeah, sorry,
Was.
you're right. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I'm
Okay.
thinking Boxing Day. Sorry.
So I spend it on,
Yeah, once you get out
Yeah.
once you get out to
Wednesday.
50 metres though,
Yeah.
it was
The other way.
other way.
oh, that's
It was
Yeah.
just, it's inside 40
raging
minutes.
the other way.
Yeah, they're correct. Raging's the
Yeah.
word too, by the way. Yeah,
Because
because we went out and got
48
some.
metres of water.
Yeah, we went and
Yeah.
got some dollies, and it was running 2.5 knots to the south.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was an eddy, a back eddy here.
Yeah.
But on that day, as I was saying, they were on the bite. They'd be biting going that way, not that way. And sometimes when I've been out there, sorry guys for a sec.
The current one was kind of just on the inside of the 24s. Just.
Yes.
Yeah.
So say it's my plotter, right? And say I've got a mark here, and I've got a mark here, and I've got a couple of marks in this area here, and maybe one in here. I like to do big loops around. I try and work out my inside marks. Generally in the middle, there's 1,000 boats, so I can't troll up the middle without getting in trouble. So I'll go around the outside, and I believe the fish, particularly out Mermaid and Palmy, do big circles, and you see it. You see the ratchets go off in one area, and then it seems to follow suit around the pack of boats. So as Pete asked, which way do you go? So if the current's trickling south, which it is 90% of the time from north to south, it's going that way. Most of your bites are going to be going this way with the current, okay? But if there's not much current at all, I'd say under 1 knot, it doesn't matter which way you go, if that's any help to what you're saying. So under 1 knot, you can go that way, that way, that way. But I found on some of those days, I can be down there the day before, right? And I'll get my hits going this way, and I'll do my run. I don't get anything going that way, and I don't get anything going that way, but I'll still do it, and because I know this is the honey hole, and I'll go around all the boats that I anchor up in here, sort of thing. And I've got some good marks through there too, but I just can't make the effort of going through because I get in trouble. Sometimes I will though. I'll take a risk and just driving past a piece of floats. I don't know how to get there on my prop. Anyhow, but then I'll go out the next day and I'll do the same run, and I think I know what I'm doing, but it's changed. The water's gone now that way, and I will not get them unless I go this way. And I'll get my hits in the same areas, but only troll them that way. So what you think works one day doesn't work the next. You need to know what that current's doing. And it does change. And we went
it's
out,
all on the day.
And I went out the next day, so did Stewie,
Yeah.
in our own boats.
So it was
separate.
different again.
It was pouring down rain that day if anyone went out on that Wednesday. It
was
absolutely-
very-
it's shocking.
Undesirable. Yeah.
And a bit of swell on, by the way. The current had dropped off. The current's actually going south and close that day, so it's complete opposite to the day before. Yeah. So you need to know what the current's doing. So if you pulled up and you're drifting, slowly like this, by the time you get your lines done in, that might be, say 300 metres. You drifted 50 metres while you get your lines all set up. obviously you're going to troll that way more than that way. Yeah, but if you're doing the big loop around, you can't help but sometimes go the opposite way, and sometimes you get fish that way too, but not as much as going with it. Okay. And when I'm doing that, I'm always looking at my sounder, and if I see the lines like we've been seeing, all those fish there, I'll mark that spot, because I might have moved from that spot down to here now, because the bait's sitting on a little bit of gravel down there, whatever it might be. So you need to think, okay, I'm not going to get the fish there, I'm going to get them here now, and concentrate on that area. So when I'm trolling, and sometimes I do this, if the fish are down a little bit deeper, when I'm bait fishing, obviously I do a complete reverse. I stop the boat and I let my bait sink down into the school. But when I'm trolling, I go faster to get my lines down another 5 metres or 3 metres or 2 metres. Just that little bit extra help. So if I'm doing 5 to 6 knots and my lines are set back, as soon as I go over the fish and I see them all stacked up about 20 metres down or whatever, or 30 metres down, I'll speed up to about 7 knots or 8 knots maybe, just to get them down a little bit further. Okay. Yeah.
So when you change up your colours?
Okay, so the colours, I always put my favourites out, favourite 2 maybe, and the other 2 I'll put random colours on, and I'll see which ones are going to happen. And then you can't really have 4 of everything if you're running 4 rods, 4 the same, but if you've got the opportunity to have 4 lures the same, that's a great thing, but it's not necessarily the case. So it's more going to be, as I said, the depths are more important than the colours, and then your 4 colours come next in line. Yep. There's a lot in trolling, hey, there's a lot involved, but if you stick by the standard rules of depth, colour and speed and current, and then moon phase that'll come a bit later, that's going to help you out a lot. When you get the fish close to the boat, gaffing is really important. I keep emphasising this so much because I see so many guys, and hear of so many guys that lose fish or gear on the gaff. It's really important that you don't give the gaff to someone who's not well sighted, that can't see the fish properly, okay, or didn't bring their glasses that day. You need to be able to see the fish. You need to be able to read the fish coming towards you. This is coming towards you, as at the same time you gaff it in the head. Headshot's always the best. It's the hardest part of the body. The soft part, if you go in the middle of the fish, easy to gaff. Straight in the middle, can't miss. But it'll flip off the gaff a lot of time, or rip it out of your hand, or whatever it might be. Gaff it in the head is really easy. If you don't have a gaff, which I've done a couple of times, I've forgotten to bring the gaff, you need to get it beside the boat and reach over and grab the tail. But watch the head doesn't snap around and try and bite you. Really important.
So you always go over the top?
Yep, I'm always going over the top. I don't like to go that way. I see guys do that a lot and they miss a lot, and they generally get it in that part, and it's the softest part is underneath. The hardest part's on the shoulder or the head. Okay, and make sure you gaff sharp, and make sure it's not too fat. Too fat a gaff, like too fat a head here, is not very good on skinny fish. Okay, especially dolphin fish and stuff like that. Needs to be a bit thinner and sharp. Next thing, donger. As you know, if you go to slurry and you get the luxury of having a big ice well in the floor or somewhere, or a big esky you can throw it straight into, happy days. But otherwise you just need a donger. You need to hit on the head 10 times normally, six minimum. sorry greenies. But
yeah, you really want to make sure it's done well. Yeah.
And the aluminium ones do the job all right. We do have wood ones there, but I'm out of stock at the moment. But the wooden ones are the best because they're so solid. So these are like ting, and the other one's like whack. 3 whacks with the wood one works fine. Okay, 10 or 8 with the aluminium. But any bat's better than no bat. You have to obviously puts them out of their misery, or gives them a bit of misery, and it definitely makes it safer for you to get the hooks out. Because if they've got 2 lots of trebles in their mouth, it's just too dangerous. And whatever you do, if your fish is too big, like ice baits these days are fantastic. They're mackerel size, they're made for mackerel. So you can chuck them in an ice bag, that's great. But if you've got an esky that's 900 long and you've got mackerel that are 1.2 metres long, and the head's always hanging out, most guys leave the head out instead of the tail. I always hang the tail out, not the head. But just don't walk past, because those teeth will just slice your leg open or your hand or whatever. Just touch it and it's like a razor blade. Okay, so be very careful. So that bit of braid going around, everyone's seen it now. So would most people...
Nothing's come down here yet.
Okay, oh, you haven't seen the braid yet, mate? Oh, sorry guys, do you mind pass it back up? Does anyone else not see the braid? Sorry, thanks gentlemen. Sorry mate, if we missed that one. That looks like a piece of hair. Thanks mate. Yeah. Sorry guys. I've got to be politically correct what I say. But what I wanted you all to know is the thickness of that braid and how it felt. And generally, most people would think that would be what, who would have thought that would be £20? 80. Not quite that good yet, but it's actually, it's £60, 59.5, which is extremely thin. So it's...
Strand braid is that like?
It's 8 strand.
Yeah.
So the better braids, get back to what I was saying earlier, like the 5 year, 7 year, they have a coating on them. So as the braid gets dearer, the material doesn't change much, but the coating changes. So the coating has a lot of UV inhibitants and a lot of other things in it that make it last a lot longer. And it also, material, that's not so material, but the coating they put on it makes it, like some of the braids become flat. So they're very thin one side, a bit thicker the other way, but they lay better on your reels and cast better. So as it gets dearer, it gets like that. That's what we call, that's probably like a 2 to 3 year braid, which is around that sort of $80 retail point.
What about your braid conditioner?
Yeah, braid conditioner, so we don't sell much of that, and it's been around for a few years, but our sales we'd probably sell, I don't know, thousands of spools of braid a year. I maybe sell 5 conditioners. So I don't think it really make much difference. It's just another sales pitch, I think, maybe. Sorry if you invented it. But yeah, I think it's not the be all and end all. I think it's really important that you don't leave your braid out in the sun and wash it down in fresh water and get back. I don't think the salt is too bad for it, but try and just hose it down a bit. Yeah.
And just make sure it's dry before you put it away.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. Like I don't think it likes being wet
Yeah.
for a long period of time, like sweating or anything like that.
Yeah, although it is made of Dyneema, which doesn't rot.
It shouldn't matter.
Shouldn't rot, no.
Yeah.
Not quick in here. Just get back to the last thing on the trolling part before we go into the next level is, do you use wire trace versus mono? I said earlier before, I run my mono straight to my lures. I normally lose, like I do a lot of mackerel trolling, I don't know, maybe in a season, at least 20 trips, say, trolling. Or maybe 30, I don't know. But I think up till last year, I'd only lose maybe 1 or 2 or 3 lures maybe in a season for 30 Spanish or 40 Spanish, whatever. But this season just gone last year, I lost five lures, so, or 6, I don't know, a lot more than double what I normally lose. But we've noticed the last couple of years there's been a lot more wahoo around, which is good. Wahoo are great eating and great fun, and they're normally bigger, and they look beautiful in the water. So they're our mates in the tackle shop because they bite your gear off. They bite my lures off too. They have a very long snout on them, so you can't do much about that, except use wire, but you're going to cut back your chances of getting a hook up by a lot, probably by maybe 80% or 70%. So when you go north, wire's the go because the fish up there, they're educated down the side of say, Bundaberg. Okay, that side they're not. No offence, guys, but up north there. But the fish down here are very educated. I don't know what it is, but they don't like wire as much as they like mono.
Yeah, I think it's just fishing pressure, to be honest. Like you go out here every weekend and you might be one of 100 boats, whereas up there you could be one of 10. It does get busy up there, but not as
quicker.
busy. Yeah.
Strange part is though, it's the same fish
Yeah, that's right.
that swam from Cairns to here, and but they've obviously educated on the way maybe.
Yeah, university just on the other side of Brisbane.
That's right. Yeah, so they go down as far as probably Southwest Rocks or maybe even Sydney sometimes, but once they get to about sort of Coffs, they seem to really disappear. So some of the dollies and all that sort of stuff, they get bigger as they go down, but those really big monster ones that you see, they seem to do a dog leg and go east, and they end up over in America, and that's when they get really big. Well, that time they're at the end of their life cycle, you know. But there's some big ones up north though. They might do a U-turn and go back up north again.
Yeah.
on the mackerel side of things. Yeah, but that's about it on the trolling. So no questions on trolling, guys? Oh yes, Johnny.
Yeah, when you only fish with hard bodies when you're trolling for Spanish alone?
Always, mate. Yeah, so
Always?
hard bodies. Yeah, I don't troll any soft plastics or anything like that. They get bitten in half. Yeah, but baits separate scenario to tonight. But yeah, hard bodies, whether it be wood ones like Rapalas or timber. I'll pass that around to you, mate. Or whether it be plastic like most of them are. Yeah, they're all hard bodies. That's for sure.
Not skirts with wire?
No, not for mackerel so much. No, I have done in the past for spotties, and that's a good question too, by the way. I have never caught many Spanish. I caught wahoo obviously on skirts, but not many Spanish. Yep, it's a weird thing, isn't it? You get spotties on skirts high speed, you get wahoo, but the Spanish don't seem to go too much for it. And the Spanish don't seem to go out beyond about 27 fathoms.
Yeah.
But you go out North Queensland, they're out in the abyss. So it's really weird. They all seem to come in close here and hug the coastline. So yes, mate.
Water temperature have much to do with it?
Yeah, it does. So water temperatures, and that's how it all works. That's how the whole world works with fishing it up here. So in Cairns in winter, say July, August, it's 26 degrees, and that's their winter temperature, and that's when they smack them up there. And then as they come down the coast, they follow that water temperature all the way down as it gets too hot. You still get them in 30 degrees up there, but you won't get the numbers. And they go all the way down, and as it gets past us, and at about Coffs or that area, it's sort of that 26 stops. Very rarely they get sort of 26 down, say, at south side of Sydney, say. So that's why they only go down to a certain distance, and then they disappear or go east or wherever. So they work with that temperature, and all fish species are the same. Marlin, dolphin fish, it doesn't matter. Yeah, but you will get ones that stay in their area and become locals. Like we get mackerel here all year round. I don't know if you guys know that, but they're here all the time. They're not always the same size. The ones we get here in winter, sometimes down at Palm we get mackerel in winter, and September, October, but they're only little Spanish, they're tiny ones. I think they're the first of the fleet that come up there, and they just get in that southern current and just do a high tail up south. I don't know what the New South Wales supporters what they are, but they just go south, and where the general lot come down with the current when it's that temperature. Yep.
They'll still hang around in the hotter temperature water, don't you?
Yeah, they will, mate. Yeah, they will. They'll still stay like up north in 30, you know, or they'll stay here when it's 21. In winter, I've caught them in August out the front here in 21, 22 degrees temperature. When it sort of like doesn't get down below 20, it's sometimes they just hang around. There's so much bait here and the water's clean, as whatever it is that they like, they'll hang here. Yeah, but their technique changes. That's a really important thing to know too. Is they generally start on hard bodies and then they progress. So you can troll hard bodies down, get more than you will actually trolling baits or trolling lipies on a downrigger. Even though they're at the depth, they just want hard bodies. And then probably another few weeks' time, they'll switch to baits like gar, saris, yakkers, slimies, trolled. That's what they like. And then that's in, say, till end of March or late mid-March. And then in April, when you get the bigger ones, like 20 kilo size or whatever, they only want to take liveys and downriggers. And then that's generally the end of their progression. And it's how it seems to work every year. Hard bodies, dead baits, then live baits on downriggers. I think it's over. That's about right.
Yeah, it's about right. Yeah,
Yeah, we see it every year.
it's always a lure thing first,
Yeah.
which is like now.
Yeah.
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 The season, like I heard you mention before, the seasons are getting later and later.
Yeah, they're getting later and later.
Do you think that's going to be the same with the baits?
I think it'd be the same with everything. So whether it be pearl perch, snapper or mackerel, it seems to be getting a bit later. Yeah, we had cold water prior to Christmas. You know, it's like 20 degrees early December. We were stressed there's going to be no marlin season, and because it was very late this year. And then all of a sudden it went 25. You know, and the currents come in or whatever. But that probably means that everything's going to stay another month later. Spotties, we've had massive catches. I've had massive catches of spotties in June, July. Back in the day when there's no bailing, we used to smash it, you know, in winter, and it was 21 degrees. So they hang around for a while. You just got to find where they are. Yep. Okay, so trolling's probably the biggest side of things for tonight, but we'll quickly go down to, I just say spotties. Okay, trolling for spotties, just downsize your lure. They will take all the lures we talked about and the big ones as well, but they like a little bit smaller ones. Okay, that's sort of that littlest
like
one
that
coming
type
around.
size.
Yeah, that size. Yeah.
Little one.
Yep. Or skirts at high speed, Johnny, at 12 knots or 18 knots. You'll see guys down. Have you ever seen those guys down at Palmy with their lines out about 150 metres and they're doing like 16 knots? You've seen those guys in the homemade sort of boats? They're trolling little tiny pink skirts about that big with a little number 2 bean at the front or number 1 bean, single 6/0 hook, little tiny bit of wire, and they got 2 lines out and they troll really fast, and they use pretty heavy line actually to keep the lure up fairly high, and they smack them. Especially spotties more than Spanish. You don't get many Spanish doing that, but you get lots of spotties, and that's how they do it. So there used to be a little lure come out from Yamashita. It was a little plastic head with a little crystallised eye in it, and it's pink. And that was like the gun spotty mackerel lure for many years. Going back 20 years ago, you can't get them anymore. And but they're about 75 mil long, 3 inch, and that was how you did it. And you would just get heaps, the 20, 30 spotties, 40 spotties, trolling that way. Anyhow, another story. But so that's the trolling side of it. We'll now go to, so we've done our trolling now. We're going to go now to probably casting lures. One of my favourite types of fishing, especially for spotties, is casting metals. Has anyone done that here yet? Probably most of you would have, or should have. So, you done all right, mate?
Not this year.
Not this year, not this year, no, me neither. I haven't found the birds and the fish on top yet. But some of the best areas for doing this, and I'll tell you guys because you can't do it now, but was definitely from Kurraji up to Kurang Cove along the front in about 10 to 20 metres of water. There's a lot of coffee rock on the bottom there. It's all green zone now. But for many years, it would just be a white frothing, and it still is a white frothing bloodbath of bait and spotties, and then Spanish in there as well. But you just can't get into there to do it. But you'll see the birds in the distance, and you'll be driving past and looking in and thinking, oh gosh. But it's for the turtles, and it's a green zone now. But that's where we used to get most of our fish casting metals. There is an area north of Trebles to about the bar that you can fish in that sort of area now. It's like just on the northern end of the green zone, and you will still smashed up there. And has anyone fished up outside the pin bar for spotties? Anyone here do that yet?
You're up there,
Yeah. I was eating some mac tuna, yeah. Was there much bait there, mate?
Heaps.
Heaps, okay. So the spotties should rock up there soon, I dare think. And the perfect tide for up there is low tide at about 5 or 6 in the morning at this time of year. And what you do is you get up there when the tide's about 2 hours after that. So around 6 to 7, the sun's up a bit, and you'll see the clear versus the dirty water line, and you get all little white bait will sit in that cloudy stuff, and then it'll just be like a massive amount of spotty mackerel just under it, eating it all the way around that dirty water line. And you just cast metals in, and it's just instant hookup. Okay, so there's a few rules about casting metals, and firstly, I was going to show the gear again. We'll run it through the gear. I like to use about a 4,000 or 5,000 size reel, spin reel, and a rod, something in this sort of scenario. This is actually a bit heavier ones, 8 to 12 kilo, but something that size reel and that size sort of rod, 7 foot spin, 7'2", whatever. You could go down to 6 foot if that's what you got. That'll work. Won't get quite the distance, and you want to use around about 20 or 30 pound braid. Okay, so I was going to show you some 30. It's 38 pound braid, and it's 20 pound normal braid diameter, so it's really thin. And you've got 30 pounds, about 15 pound diameter, roughly speaking, in normal braid. So you're going to cast about a 40 gram metal, which is something like you've got in your bags. You're going to cast it at least, I don't know, maybe 80 metres. You should be able to cast 80 metres or something like that, using 30 pound braid on it. And that's plenty. Actually too far if anything, because the sharks have got time to get your fish. Okay? Now, the only downfall about casting metals into a white bloodbath of fish and sharks and whatever is the time it takes. Do you let it sink just 2 seconds to get down below it? Because you know yourself, when you start spinning and you see fish chasing it, you get a bit hyper and the lure starts catapulting out of the water. It doesn't work as good. Whilst in the water doing that, it's going to work heaps better. So to do that, you need to let it sink, sacrifice that 3 second period or whatever to sink a little bit, maybe 2 or 3 metres down, and you'll get probably 20 or 30 metres of it in the water before it comes to the top. And that's when you get your hit. Once it gets to the top, they'll still crash it, but not as much as once it's in the water. Problem is, in that free fall moment, they get really bitten off easy. So mackerel just come and grab it and bite it off. And you go to wind and there's nothing there. So it's a sacrifice. So my suggestion is when you go spinning for mackerel, you have at least 10 metals per guy or 6 metals per guy on the boat to do it right, okay? Size-wise, sometimes they're feeding on little tiny white bait, so I'll take out something like 15 or 20 grams, and I'll still be able to peg them even on that real thin 30-pound braid, probably 40 metres, which is enough. Yeah, on something, maybe one rod lighter than this one or similar. But the most common size is 25 and 40 and 50 grams, or 35 in that area. And it's just set your drag right, make sure it's not too loose or too tight. When I cast out, I take the chance and let it sink, and then I wind, and I'll stop real quick and wind, stop, one stop. Okay, that's my action. It's like that little pause is when it gets hit, straight away it gets hit. Because I don't know if it gives them time to catch up or whether I just sit, it's stop for a second, they just nail it. It's whatever it is, it works. So has anyone tried that technique at all? Yeah, don't lift your rod up and do that sort of thing, because they'll bite it on the free fall every time. Bite it off, sorry. You get bites, but you won't get the fish get bitten off. There are some safeguards you can do. You can buy or make up your own little tiny wire traces. These are a Helco one on single strand. They're just a little bite trace. It's 44 pounds.
Yeah, if you do it like a bite trace, you only want it, say, like 4 or 6 inches, like not long.
Yeah. And you can get little titanium traces. Now, titanium's the best because it's a one trace. As long as you don't lose that trace, it'll last forever. It doesn't kink, it doesn't do anything. No matter how many, if you get a couple of fish on those, they'll kink the wire up. So once it's kinked, it's useless. Titanium, it doesn't kink. Like, no matter how it gets in their teeth, it comes out straight. It's very hard for it to bite through, but they're expensive. There's always a downfall. But they work really well, they're well made. But in your bag, you've got a little red trace. Now those red ones is as good a quality without breaking. They're 30 pounds. So obviously don't use it on 50-pound braid, so it will break perhaps. Only braid to 30, but they definitely do work. So if you're getting bitten off, you've lost 4 lures, and you're down to your last 2, throw that on. But don't throw it on first up. You need to take the chance and try and get the fish going, okay? It's a bit like using your mono when you're trolling your hard bodies to using a wire.
Straight wire or whatever, something really heavy, yeah.
See what works best first. Thanks, Stu.
Sorry, mate.
Yeah. Now, if you do have that jig rod again, this is the all-rounder, that little one there, same deal again. That's what I was saying, if you had a 6-foot rod, something like that. I'd definitely be able to cast that, probably the 40 grammer, or even maybe whatever size you got there, 35, probably 60 metres on something like that. Okay, it'll do everything. Yeah. Trawl, cast, jig. Lure shapes. Okay, so it's a bit like hard bodies. What do I use and what colours do I use? The most important thing is size is the first thing. So small, big, whether it be short and fat and heavy, as long as you can get the distance. So not many years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and many years prior to that, this lure's been out for about 15 years now, it's a little killer. So it's a little lure, but it's 30 grams. So it's quite heavy. So you're comparing that to something that size or a bit bigger again, that's 30 grams, you know. So I'll pass that around too. they're really popular. And pink's been really popular on spotties for many, many years in a metal lure. The biggest I cast for spotties, if that's all you got, would be about probably a 60 gram lure, something like that. Okay, would be the heaviest I'd use on spotties, or maybe 80. I'll take 80. You get Spanish on that size though. But when you got that, it's a bit. You could probably cast it on both those, but
Yeah.
you wouldn't better cast it
It's
on
more of a lob
on a
cast.
20-pound braid.
Yeah.
You snap it off, I think. But all of those lures are fast spin lures, okay? With the pause, one pause, one pause, one pause.
I think the best size-wise, if you wanted just a handful, you'd probably have like say a 15, a 25 and a 35. And that would have pretty much
yeah, maybe 50.
everything. Maybe a 50
Yeah.
just as a,
That-
just in case. But yeah, like we do heaps of spinning down
Nice.
Mermaid and
Yeah,
Palmy and
Mermaid's
stuff.
really good. Yeah.
And we just go down there without bait and just spin. That's all we do. And just drift around, fish everyone else's burley trail. It's really good.
The trail's good.
Yeah. And but yeah, it's just a good way of finding fish when it's a bit harder. Yeah, you're not waiting for the fish to come to you. You're traveling around. You're going to the fish.
So yeah, and come another sort of another month and a half, so late March to late April. In that period, you'll get, I said on downriggers, but you'll get a lot of mackerel, spotties and Spanish at anchor and burling up, and you actually spin your burley trail all the time or jig your burley trail. And I've caught many Spanish on that sort of size lure, casting in my burley trail. And letting it sink, I let it free fall. Again, they could do get bitten off, but I let it free fall to where they are on my sounder, 20 metres down or 30 metres down, and I'd rip it back up through as a fish. And palmy, I don't know how many fish I caught doing that, especially spotties, dropping it, casting it out, letting it sink to the bottom, and it's a chance to take again, like I said, they bite on the sink. And then just rip it up through the belly trail when you add anchor. And you'll probably see guys, they're going to see guys then they're doing that scenario. They let it sink forever, and then they just wind it real fast. They cast it out, let it sink down, they wait for ages, and then they just wind it real fast. And that's what they do. They're working the belly trail. They're working other people's belly trails. They're casting it in behind their boats. At anchor, mate. Yeah, at anchor. If you've got the luxury of being able to drift through the boats and you see the fish on the sounder, same scenario, do the same thing. And then you're casting lots of different belly trails.
Yeah,
you
I
have
like
that
to
luxury.
drift when I do it, but
Do you?
it's, yeah,
Okay.
it's difficult at times when it's real busy.
I see
hard.
guys that you're out there doing that.
Yep.
There's a lot of different brands of lures. Some have different actions. Some have just a pull through the water, they're shiny. Other things wobble. And then there's slow pitch lures, slow pitch metals, like that you cast, not jig. So a slow one is a very curved one. This particular one here, which is a very old lure, but has worked well over the years, is a blue fox. I think I used to use these about 20 years ago. I changed the hook on it though. But they work really well at a slow,
very
steady pace.
bent.
Oh, sorry, very bent. These ones for Spanish, that size as well. I'll pass it around too. And that one there's like Tackle Worlds up North Queensland, sort of from Bundy North, sell a lot of those for Spanish and spotties, as they come in different sizes, but they're all not super fast spinning. They're just a steady pace, and they waddle really real hard through the water. And they're classed more as a spoon than a medal. Okay. Any questions on the medals and spoons at all? So you're going to do it. You can do it drifting, and you can do it, but know where the fish are that you're casting to. You can do it definitely at anchor in your burley trail from the bottom or from the top or mid water, doesn't matter. Cast all around the boat, fan the boat. And the other thing you can do is, which is my favourite and which we used to do up north all the time, is you look for the birds. And a lot of time if you've got a really clear day, and you can sight birds, even my eyes aren't the best, but you can sight birds from kilometres away. It just looks like a cloud on the water. So you think, oh, it's a cloud, it's a low cloud. But they're not, it's birds. And when you see that birds, you just get the lines in and gun over as fast as you can to it. Straight away, you got to know what your current's doing because you've already sorted your current out. And get up into the wind on the other side of them and come down into them. They'll generally they work against the wind normally, and you're drifting with the wind, so you'll match up. Really important not just to go straight in the middle of them cast. because they'll shoot off.
Yeah,
they'll
try not to
disappear.
drive in them.
Yeah, try
Always
to
hang off to the side, or
Yeah.
as Doug said, upwind.
Yeah, upwind and lead them to you, or they'll come to you, generally, unless the bait wants to go that way. They're all following the bait, simple as that. Common sense. Okay, when you hook up in this little light gear, they scream. They make the reels scream, which is a great feeling, and they make the reels sing loud. They'll do a few runs. Just make sure your drag's not set too tight, especially when you get around the back of the boat, because you've got such light rods, they snap rods. They go into the boat, whatever it might be. Some guys will net spotties, because I'm running that sort of 30 to 40 or 50 pound fluorocarbon leader. I like to use fluorocarbon leader. And I'm running with all bright on my braid, and only short leader, about maybe a metre at the most, or 750 long. And if it's 30 pound or plus, I'll just do it. If it's only about 4 kilo fish, I'll do just a grab on it and lift it into the boat. If it's over about 5 or 6 kilos, which is around about 80, 90 centimetres in length, probably 95, sorry, I'll gaff it. Okay, I might use a bit smaller gaff, a little bit smaller one, but I'll gaff it. Or try and grab by the tail. But it's hard to grab by the tail. There's an art to that. The guys, anyone here got jet skis? Yeah, so you know, grabbing fish on the tail, you guys got to generally grab them by the tail when you get them inside the boat, or you could use a small gaff. But yeah. Okay.
I'm just going to ask a question about the leader again.
Yep.
So the preference is always your leader too, not one of these wires.
No,
Yeah.
wires, but when you're getting bitten off, you're getting down to the nitty gritty, Pete, and you've only got a couple of lures left, you have to
Yeah.
switch to wire.
Yeah, wire's like a last
Yeah.
resort.
Yeah.
I've never used wire on any.
Yeah. I think some of the best sessions we've ever had, we've got like 40, back in the day you could keep whatever you want to keep, maybe 40 or 50 in a session on medals.
Yeah.
We've probably lost maybe 10 or 12 lures in, say, between two guys in that session.
Yeah.
So your average is probably, you might not lose a lure, or you might get, let's say 5 to 1. 5 fish to 1 lure lost, maybe, when they're in a frenzy. But when they're just quiet and you're just doing random casting, you really won't get bitten off. It's when they're in that frothing frenzy that they just eat anything. Yeah. Okay, any questions on casting at all, folks? Okay, you're all clued up. Good, fantastic. Look for the bait balls, another thing too. If you see the bait balls up high and you see fish around it, just cast that bait ball. Okay. We're going to go now to casting stick baits and little swimming lures. So, Stu, you do a fair bit of this.
Yeah, I do a fair bit of like stick bait and small metals and stuff like that. I'm not really one to troll all day or like active, but just anything. Yeah, I keep it fairly small. I fish fairly light, so I won't fish like a heavier rod like the micro jig setup or anything. I fish like a 4,000 reel with say 15 pound on it, and just a 5 to 9 kilo rod, something fairly light. And just casting a lot of like little stick baits. Sink-in stick baits are quite good. That's a little one from Nomad, the little Mad Scad. That's quite a popular one. Caught a lot on them last year, and as well like metals. Any sink-in little hard bodies as well, just with little bibs. So like a lot of guys would troll something like that, but to me that's more of a caster. So the weight just gives you.
Yeah, it's
you
a lot
can
heavier.
cast
It's
it,
double the
yeah.
weight or triple the weight of a normal lure that size. So they're designed to be able to cast 60 metres or whatever it might be, and the action's subsurface and swimming.
Yeah.
They don't dive down, they just sit below the surface because of their weight. You don't need to wind as fast as a metal though.
No.
So just a steady wind. You can pause in between though. Generally with a lure, as I was saying, you really get bitten off, but a lure that size, you got a bit more safety because it's quite long. So the hooks hopefully
Yeah.
get away from the mouth a bit, but yeah.
And like any pelagic will always bite the tail off first. So 9.5 out of 10 will always be on the back treble. You very rarely get one on that middle belly treble, and or single. And that's just because it's like in their brain to bite the tail off and then come back and eat the head half later on. So that's yeah, you can afford to run a little bit lighter leaders and stuff like that. Keeping that in mind, you'll get the ones that do swallow the whole thing, but 9 times out of 10, yeah, it'll be on that back hook.
That's probably as big as I cast a spotty, but I definitely catch Spanish on that size too. And then bigger ones in that sort of size there, or that sort of size there is for Spanish, okay? So when they get those big Spanish, about a month's time, and they sort of feed in the surface a little bit sometimes, on the bait, that's what you peg at them, something bigger. But you need to cast that with something like that bigger
like
rod.
a bit heavier rod.
If you've got any popper type rods, guys, at home, or anything a bit bigger reel, you can throw in a bit longer rod to pitch something like that out. Okay.
Are you on a constant wind on them?
Yeah.
The bigger ones?
Yeah, actually, no, you're working it. You sort of like, every time you
It's
rake
like you
it,
sweep it or break it.
it'll work like that. You can constant wind the minnow going around. It's got a bib on it, but non-bib, work it. Yeah. And you don't need to go that way to make it go that way. Just keep going one way.
Yeah.
It'll do its own thing. Yeah. A lot of the lures and the bigger ones don't come with hooks. You've got to hook them up yourself, but that's all good. You can cast things like that, but I wouldn't recommend it. You're better off keeping that to trolling, just use stick baits. Poppers, I haven't caught many mackerel on poppers. I know they do take them, but not for me. It's been all stick baits or metals.
What depth will they come up with the stick bait?
Right to the top, they'll crash the top.
So they'll easy 30 metres come up?
Yep, 100%. Launch out of the water, yeah. Actually, Mark was saying earlier, Mark makes stick baits, and he's telling us how they smash. You got one the other day on stick bait, Mark? Yeah. How deep was that in, mate? Don't think away a secret, but...
Let it sink for, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, about depth of the water where you're at, mate?
I was out on the 24s.
24s, okay, mate, yeah.
Hump like you had there before.
Yeah, okay.
On the top and
Yeah, fish on top of that, yeah.
fish above it.
Yeah, okay, mate. So most is all stick baits. You can get floating ones, but most of them are sinking. So as Mark said, you count down, let it sink, and then work it back up through the bait school. You can do that way, or you can cast on top and they'll come up to it as well. It's a bit like with your marlin, try a marlin, especially blue marlin, they'll come up 100 metres to a lure from down there. So I don't know, I think the boat attracts them probably first, but then the fish is after that, your bait, your lure or whatever's after that. Yeah. Okay, any questions on that at all, folks? No? Okay, and then jigging. Okay, so jigging, I've been doing for a few years now. I lose a lot of jigs. Simple fact. Simple fact is that I don't use wire again, and because they flutter so much, I think they bite them on the fall, but it's very productive. The trouble is trying to get hooks that don't get bitten off. So you might not lose your lure, but get lots of lures, hooks bit off. So there are some manufacturers now doing wire and hooks, but my suggestion is to learn to make your own. I do my own. And I use single strand wire. I use heavy wire around 50 kilos, sort of 124 pound, number 9 I think it is. The hooks you can either use hooks that are on assist hooks now, the ones that got eyes on them, not the flat end. A lot of assist hooks are flat ends, not eyes. Or you can buy like ones with eyes on them, like so. And they're very strong hooks. And does anyone not know how to do a haywire twist? Okay, you need to learn how to do it. We can show you how to do it. You do a haywire twist, a very short one on top of the hook, and run a tiny little shank, and then do another haywire twist onto a solid ring. Okay, and then I can quickly make one for you if you want, and then you just slide over the top of that hook, one of these little octopus skirts, this type of thing. Okay, and that slides it out the top, and if you want, you can add a little bit of tinsel to it, like this sort of stuff here. Just a couple of little straps around it, and you can put a rubber band around it, you can glue it on, or you can bind it onto the shank of the hook. That sits through the skirt, but you don't need to go to that trouble, just the skirt's enough. The lure's enough with just the hooks on it actually, but definitely the skirt does help, I think, a little bit. But anyhow, so I run 2 hooks at one about 35, 40 mil, and one about 60 mil, 50 mil. So the 2 separate hooks on the ring. I haven't learned how to do really a double assist together, if that makes sense. You see a double assist downstairs, they're sort of one off the other one. We don't know how to do that yet.
No, it'd be hard.
Unless you put them on the one ring,
Yeah.
it might work. Put it on the one ring, but I run one on 2 separate rings. So one's a bit shorter, one's a bit longer on the jig. And the jigs we're using are fairly small, Like something like that, Stu, yeah. Yep, around that sort of anywhere from 40 to about 100 grams. I'll just pass these couple around and give you some idea. You don't want too light. So what I've learned with mackerel over the years is I used to use real light, like those snapper type jigs, 30 grams, small, flat. But the fluttering is too much. It's too slow, and they just bite them off. They bite the whole thing off. Wire assist or no wire assist. So if you go a bit heavier, like you use out, say 100 meters, 100 grams or 80 grams, and they work heaps better. Because the lure's falling quick, and they like that quick action too, by the way. They like the slow action too, but you don't get bitten off nowhere near as much. Okay, so use a heavier jig, keep it small though, and use your wire assist on there. So get rid of the assist hooks that come on it and make up your own little wire assist. We're still trying to find ones that are pre-made, but it is a bit hard. We might have to make some up, I think.
The wire assist?
Yeah,
I think we've got ones downstairs that are like a solid metal one that you've just got to put a ring on and then you hook. So that'd work all
okay,
right.
just the end part?
Yeah.
Just the wire assist itself.
Yeah, just the wire assist without the hook.
The shout ones, yeah.
Which is easy, but yeah.
So the action is slow pitch fishing. It's not fast like kingies. You don't need to do fast, you just do slow. But because that jig's heavy, it's not going to flutter back down so fast. It shoots down quite quick, and I'll nail it on the fall every time. You rarely get hit on the way up, it's always on the fall. Keep it to around about 80, well I said 60 to 100 grams, but if you're running really light braid on your overhead rod, you might want to use, if you're running like 20 pound braid, then you could probably get away with 30 or 40 because it'll shoot quick, right? But if you're using 50 or 60 pound braid, it'll just have too much resistance, it'll be too slow fall. You need to go to that 80 to 100 grams, keeping it small. The longest I'd probably use are, these, I haven't tried these, these come out, Consecutive came out last year. They're like a long style version, but I find it's, what I was saying before, the flutter, fast fall flutter, that doesn't make sense, rather than the quick action, this style of thing, this doesn't work as good as a flutter one, okay? But I will try that this year. Pass it around to me. And I've used these Jackson ones, these have been out around a long time now. Just get rid of this top assist and put on wide, but they come with a treble on as well, which is a good thing. So a lot of cord in the treble as well, and they're around 60 grams. They work well that size there. You can use these on both spin and overhead. And it works fine. If those you got, whatever jig rod you got, what you use for snapper or whatever, is fine. Okay. How do you use these and where do you use them? Well, you need to use it wherever you find that first position where you have the hump and you find the bait and you find the fish above it, you just drop it down between them and bring it back up. Please use the same technique on dolphin fish as well, guys. So really important. I know we're not doing dolphin fish tonight, but it's an advantage to you if you're chasing dollies and they're a bit quiet on the surface of boats everywhere. They will be down lower. We did it the other day with Stewie. Yeah. And I said, Stewie, just drop your jig down there. But we actually, Stewie got the kingies, couldn't get a dolphin fish due to the kingies kept taking his bloody jig. But they're down lower. And it's the same with the mackerels, the same scenario. They're down in amongst the bait and you just use the jig up through them. Okay? Yep. Works really well.
Yeah, and if you are going to do a bit of jigging, next time you need braid, buy multicolour stuff. Changes colour every 10 metres generally. There's one or two that are 10 yards instead of metres, so that's a bit hard. But like the Shimano stuff, it's all meterage, so it's 10 metres per colour. And if you see fish at 20 metres, you drop your jig down 2 colours and you know you're there. So that's the biggest thing, you're not fishing a lot of blind water. You always know where your lure is at the time, so it's an important thing. You want to maximise that chance.
Guys, one thing these come out after last mackerel season. They're a Japanese lure called Jackeye from Hayabusa. I reckon these are going to smack them. So you can jig with these, spin them and everything. But they've just got mackerel written all over them. Probably got mackerel food written all over them too, but I don't know if you've seen those. Did you see those coming through?
Yeah, I've seen them coming in. Yeah, they look quite good.
They've got like a blade on the end, blade under, and they're a really shutter type style, but a fast sink, so they're quite fast.
Yeah, so there's a couple of sizes, I think they're 40s, that's 60.
Yeah, 40 and 60 grams. So 40 is the minimum I'd use, 60 would be probably a preference. Depends on the braid you're using too. So we've gone through all the lures. Any questions on that sort of thing at all, guys? No? Who jigs here? A few of you do. Have you tried it for mackerel yet at all, guys? Now please try it. It's very good. I know you lose lures, but it is very good. And
I wanted to throw them away.
yeah, I know that's true. But it's a lot of guys don't do it. And the only reason I started doing was quite a few years ago, maybe I don't know, 10 years ago, whatever. I never used to let my spin lures sink through them. I'd just cast it out, let it sink a little bit, and wind fast, you know, and get fish. But then I saw the guys that work off the bottom, the lures sink to the bottom, they cast it, they sink to the bottom, and then they wind fast, and they pause and wind fast. So then I decided to try micro jig when it first came out in style, maybe 10 years ago, 8 years ago. And ever since it's been fantastic, you know. But you lose a lot of lures, but you get a lot of fish. And a lot of real big Spanish that are right down the bottom. Yeah. Just a few tools too, a bit of home rules for safety, besides the bat. Make sure you've got pliers but with big handles on them. Okay, don't use a little dicky pair of 4-inch pliers to try and get a hook out of a mackerel's mouth. You want something decent, okay? 8-inch, 10-inch pliers, and something that's quite strong and robust. You can get the hooks out because their mouth's quite hard where their teeth are. If you're going to use grips, boga grips of some type to take a photo, whatever, remember their mouths are dangerous. Preferably, I don't like to use bogas or that type of grip, on a mackerel because they have a habit of snapping their jaws even when they hold them in the hand. They've been donged a few times. They'll still do this sort of action. I prefer to get my hands up in the gills and hang on to them there and then tail or somewhere to take the photo shot. Don't use the grips. It's too dangerous. And they'll flick out your hand as well. Probably besides that, just one other thing I want to tell you about wind on leaders. So you've got those in there too, in your bags, I think. So the 40-pound one is really good for trolling your small lures, and really, really good. You can use that for casting your metals on, okay? So tie that directly to your spin rod and cast with it. You need to do a little tiny double on the top of your braid with a bimini twist. If you don't know how to do that, we can teach you downstairs. Maybe not tonight, but when we get time and you come in, we'll teach you how to do it. And we'll teach you how to put a wind on leader onto your rod. Just bring your rod in and we'll put it on for you. Show you how to do it the next time you know how to do it. Because when you're out fishing, we're not there, so you guys need to do it. Okay? And the 80-pound ones, as I said, for trolling, that's about as heavy as I go. So that's really good for trolling your hard body lures. Okay? Most of these are 6 metres, I think. 20 feet. Yeah.
6 metres.
That one's a bit shorter though, obviously, because it's a casting one. But keep it full length on the 80. The 40 you might want to cut down a little bit, but it definitely is really good and good for trolling small lures. That's probably about all the gear, I think. Anything else, Stuart? Oh, snap swivels.
That's about it, yeah.
It is for snaps. Remember size 4 and 5. 4 and 5 is your friends when you're trolling for mackerel. If you want to use any snap swivels on your lines. So I do use snaps. As I said, I use loop knot or snap on the end of my leader. So if you're going to use a loop knot, it's like perfection loop or the lefty's loop, whatever you want to call it. Make sure that you do it right and leave it no bigger than a 5-cent piece to loop. So that's your maximum size loop you want to use, and if not smaller than a 5-cent piece. If you're going to use...
One of these wind-ons for
yeah, I do, mate. Yeah, the 40-pound one.
for stick baits?
Oh no, if you're using that big heavy rod like that, you want 80, around about 80 pound. Yeah, but the 40-pound mark for your smaller stick baits is fine. Yeah, no, it's easy with that because you just do a little jimmy twist and loop it through and off you go. Very easy, very quick. You can cut it down to whatever length you want. So snap swivels, size 4 and size 5, okay, in ball bearing preferably. Do you use silver, do you use black? Guys say I get bitten off on silver. You get bitten off on black too, just so you know that. It's the bobbles that attract the fish more than the colour, and the colour's next. So probably if you've got no bobbles and silver, you might get bitten off more than black. But yeah, they both work.
So is the perfection not preferred?
It is, but you get wear, Peter, because you're trolling so much and you're doing like 2 or 3 hours of trolling.
Yeah.
You will wear your line because it's vibrating on there so hard. You've got to periodically check it.
Okay.
Yeah, just have a look at it. If it looks a bit worn or whatever,
Yeah.
you need to cut it, redo it again, or you put a snap on.
Yeah, it kind of flattens right out.
Yeah, it does.
Like we're on that point where it's tight all the time,
and
and then it just parts.
And
yeah.
guys will, and I use 50-50. My rods have got snaps on, I always put the lure straight on, drop it out. It's only a small little thing, it's not too cumbersome on the lure, especially on lures that size. But I don't think I've ever had the problem where it snapped the loop, but I have seen guys that have taken a picture and they just got like the ends like that, and there's like a big gap in the middle where it's broken. And they say it got bitten off, but it's not bitten off, it's worn off. And they've hooked the fish up, but it's snapped it. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like you're running a silver snap in front of a lure, they're not going to eat the snap before they eat that. They're going to eat that. So it doesn't matter too much on colour if you're going straight to the lure.
But sometimes I wipe the sauce off my food because it tastes better than the food. Just thinking left field. Yeah. Okay. Just one last thing. Now this is, I'm not saying it annoys me with the yachty guys. They're nice
This is
people.
very old school
Yeah, very old school. Again, we go north of Bundaberg, these things catch mackerel probably better than one of these out here. But the old spoon. Okay, you all know what the old spoon, I passed that around actually. The old barrel spoon they used to call them. But 4-inch, that size there, 4, 5, 3. We've got guys coming here, mainly yachties, that will say, I want to get a lure, throw it by the boat. We always go and grab something like that, you know. And they go, no, I'll grab one of those. And then I forget about who they are, and they come back to the shop and they go, oh, here's some photos of mackerel I got the other day. And I got on the lure and I say, oh, which lure did you get them on? I go up to the boards, I'm trying to work out for my next fishing trip what's colours working. And they go, no, not those ones, the other ones. Oh, that one over there. I go, oh, jeez. And they'll smack it on these things. So they just troll them 6 knots, 7 knots, and they got it on probably a piece of rope. And they catch Spanish mackerel that are like 15 kilos. I go, oh my gosh.
But they've been dragged for about 300.
That is correct.
Yeah, that's right.
That's correct. No.
Only check it out every 4 hours.
They're doing
Always
the
flapping
miles.
on the surface. But no, seriously, this is actually day guys going out the front here.
Oh, okay.
And they're getting marlin on too.
Yeah, my brother got one a mile on. I've been ready to coat it for about 30 k's.
They do work and they're cheap. But personally, I wouldn't use one because I got the option of using that. But anyhow, maybe they're the odd fish that come north and aren't educated ones. I don't know. Anyhow, there's a lot to learn about mackerel, guys. But after tonight and what you already know, hopefully you'll enhance your fishing, get better. But the fishing, I'm telling you now that they're here because they weren't on the sound like that 2 weeks ago. So everywhere you go now, as you know, mate, there's lines like that all over the joint. They've turned up. It's just a matter of getting them to bite. I think after this big blow we're going to have now, it'll be like Fish City. I say that every time there's a big blow, but it doesn't always happen. But I do believe this time it will, because everything's on the right side. The fish bite's better in 7 days' time. We've had 35 knots suddenly. Water should be cleared. Rain's our big problem. This is our biggest problem in pelagics, guys, every year. And this year's a scary year for it. There's a lot of rain already, and our dams are already overflowing. The Hinds is about 103%, I think, at the moment, and it's flowing over into the Nerang. And so I went whiting fishing last week, one night, and it smelt like the Hinds Dam. I got nothing. I got like 2 whiting or something. It was terrible. So it's already happening, and then that ends up out the front here. And if we get more rain, then it gets brown out the front here. You will get fish in the brown or green water, but once it gets brown, they're gone. They've disappeared. They've gone down to Foster or somewhere south. So you've got to hope that we don't get too much rain that's going to flood the joint. A little bit, intermittent rain's okay, but not downpour.
So what about the moon phases?
Yeah, moon phases. So I like mackerel on a low tide early in the morning, then a high tide. Years ago I liked high tide, but it seems to switch. Yeah. So if we get that the run out at 6 a.m. or something like that, 7 a.m. Try and get their daylight fish till 7. But if the water's dirty, I like a high tide because it's too much brown stuff come out with the run out tide. So you've got to think opposite. So if there's no rain, low tide in the morning. If there's a lot of rain, high tide in the morning. That's the way you got to go now. Because water colour will beat tide for bites, if that makes sense. Yeah. And the moon phases, traditionally your best bite time is 2 or an hour and a half after high tide, no matter what that is in the moon phase. But generally, if you've got a high tide at 6 or 7 in the morning, like it is coming out now, it's either a new moon or a full moon. Yeah. So they'll bite a few days before, but not for a few days after, and not on the full moon. It might have to wait till 4 days later or 5 days later. Does anyone follow the Windy app? The little Windy app? It's pretty accurate. They give you a fish saloon at bite time with the chart now. It's free. It's called Windy, windy.com. And you'll see the little fish. At the moment, it's like one little tiny skinny fish. It just started yesterday, I think, this afternoon. So that's like crap. The weather's crap, so I don't mind. I look at that and I think, well, I probably wasn't catching any out. And someone went out this morning from here. Who went out today? There might have been guys in the shop. Oh, you went out? Yeah. And no luck, mate, though? No. So it's bad time. I'm not saying you're a bad fisherman, but it's a bad time. Yeah. Don't say that. But when you see those 3 fish stacked back up again, 3 or 4 fish in a row, they'll bite. It shows you 2 for every hour when they're going to bite. So you'll see the 3 fish, then you see it down to 1 fish, and then you'll look across to the next day, you see it come back up again. So there's a bite period during that day, all those days. But when you see just a little fish for the whole 24 hours for the next 3 or 4 days, that's like, get some brownie points at home. Time.
So what's your best weather app?
Best weather app. I used to use Coastwatch because it had everything on there, but now the Coastwatch it has Windy on there, which is a good thing. But I have to go through 4 different sites now. So I go to the Wave Boy recorder thing, and I type in, thanks, sir. I type in Wave Boys, Wave Boy Rider Seaway, and it brings up generally all the boys out the front here. Obviously mackerel's in close, so if I was going to go wide, I'd be looking at point lookout and tweed wide buoy to see what the swell's doing. But because I've been close, it's irrelevant. So I just look at Seaway buoy, the one at the front here, what it's doing. And then the wind, I use Windy, and I'll look at just bombs. So I'll go to 3-day forecast, offshore Gold Coast, offshore Seaway waters. And that'll give you, I think it's from, I can't remember where it's from. Not Point Lookout, it's further up, I think, to Tweed sort of area. Yeah, out the front area. Covers that area, gives you a 3-day forecast, and you can see it. And it gives you swell height, estimated swell height, wind and wind direction. And the Wave Rider Buoy before gives you the water temperature as well, and you've got a graph, and you've got some idea what the temperature is at the time. If you see a sudden drop, it's only because we had a lot of northerlies, and it might go from 26 to 23, and they may not bite so much in that period, but when it goes back up and had a southerly to 25, 26, they should come on the bite a bit. And what else do I use? So the 3-day, the Windy, the bomb, and that's probably about it. Yeah, that covers most of what I can do. Yeah, so current is the current's also on Windy as well, and you
So
can.
that was water temperature.
Water temperature's on there too. That's right. Yep, it's all on there. So Windy's like collectively everything you used to look at on Coastwatch in one app. So you can bring your cursor out to wherever you want to go, sort of fishing. So I was going to go out 60 k's out chasing blue marlin. I can go on there and it'll tell me the 2.3 knots from that direction, you know, of current. But if you go to, I think, I don't know if I sent it last time. It's on my phone there, I can't get to it. But no, it's a bomb site. Obviously, you've got rip charts, which is the best thing to use, but it's a couple $100 a year, but it's a very good tool. But if you go to this other one's on bomb, I think it's like WSG something or other. So it sounds like the format we use for Latin longs, but and now I see Y300, I guess. I see Y300, what that means, something like that. And it gives you the colour, and you can, and it gives you the arrows and the speed, and it forecasts 5 days in advance of what's happening on the currents. So you can see everything, and you can see if it's going to be cold reverse current like we had the other day, or whether it's going to be howling southerly current at 3 or 4 knots if we're going to go to West Dollies or whatever. It's very good. I'll send it out to you guys. Okay?
Where does it show the fish on Windy? Is it the little fish or the 3, whatever? Where's that showing?
That's on Windy. So when you click on your area and look at the days, it'll then instead of showing you the picture of the wind on the coastline, it goes to like a graph, and it'll show you the different.
Yeah, I think you might have to double check like where you press play for the days or swipe up or something like that. It pops up in like a little bar graph underneath.
I'll take some screenshots and send it to you with the other stuff, okay?
I've noticed that.
Yeah, no, it's on there. Yeah. It's a new Windy app. It's a new Windy app. Don't use the old one. Yeah, that's it there. So if you click on an area, and then push the down arrow on that. Sorry, if you click it on, once I get your phone. Do you want to bring your phone in? Sorry, mate. Sorry, folks. We'll get this right. I'll just put my glasses on so I can see it. Okay. So if I use my cursor right and I click on there, oh, that's a little bit different. Oh, it does give you activity. It does. It shows on the left. It's a slightly different format.
It seems to be two different.
It's got the little fish on the left, so it's telling you that the format, the activity at the moment is only 30%. So that's the fish activity. It's telling you the pressure at the moment is 999, so there's obviously a bit of a lower end. And it's telling you in 8 hours it's meant to rise up to 1,005. So that's pretty good for a start, because it gives you some incline what's going to happen. I'm just going to jump onto here now. Oh, here it is. So if you click on the little top arrow, I'll go back. So you see that there, gives you that at the top there. You can see that. You can see that there. That little where you clicked on before. And if you click on that little green arrow over here, oh. No, it's not there. Sorry, mate. We'll get it back up. Let's make a liar bit in. So if you click on that little green arrow, that comes up. And can you see the little skinny fish there? It goes for a few days. Skinny fish on the top here. Skinny fish, that's next Monday next week. Tuesday next week, still skinny fish. Thursday, skinny fish. Friday's getting slightly fatter. Oh, here we go. So next Sunday they start to kick back in again. There's two big fat fish on that there. Can you see that? I'll pass it back to your phone. But and you can see what the wind's doing. It tells you the wind, what it's doing as well. So you see the little fish there, mate? Yeah. Okay, so it's terrible at the moment. Today when you're out fishing, it was like a little bit fatter fish, but not much. So it gives you the wind speed, that's meters per second. We can change the format to knots, which you should do. And it gives you the pascals and the water temperature as well for the next while. That's temperature, yeah. And you can keep scanning across. Sorry guys to be sidetracked, but you should look into that app. It's a very good app. And I use that more than I use Seabreeze and other ones, okay?
Not try, it's not too bad either.
Yeah, it's a good one as well. Yeah, very good. And it's very similar type, actually. Yeah.
I'd now subscribe to that to get a lot more information.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Long range forecasts as well.
And sorry guys, same on the Windy app and not charters you said before. If you subscribe to them, you get the next level of information again, which is even better again. And it's not too bad, like $40 a year or something, but you only use that in fuel by the time you hit the seaway. So it'll save you a lot of fuel. Yeah. Just so not going. Stay home. Yeah. Okay, so any other questions at all, folks? You understand everything?
Just one question.
Yes.
Someone that's never chased mackerel before.
Yeah, mate. Yep.
Don't go any further out than 24s? Or?
Okay, safety side of things. Good call. So if my boat, like I've caught it's how good do you know your boat? Simple as that. So you know what your boat can do. If it's going to broach, if there's a tinny and it broaches badly on a swell running out tide or something like that, I wouldn't go out over a metre of swell because it's a little bit dangerous, you know. If the wind's over, say, over 10 knots, say 15 knots from the northeast, and you decide to go down to Palm Beach from the seaway, it's going to be crap coming back. You're going to get the shit beat out of you.
I was also talking about where to start looking for the fish.
Yeah, okay, where to start looking for fish. Okay, sorry. I would be definitely going at the moment, probably the 12 and 18 fathom reefs out the front of the seaway here, straight up front.
Basically where we go and get bait normally.
Yeah, 100%, matey, 100%. You can see guys trolling around and doing what we're talking about, particularly to 18 fathoms. as the time progresses, and obviously palmy and mermaid are always a good try to, and the gravel patch. But as the time progresses into March and April, the diamond reef at the front becomes the home. Yep, and you can see 60 boats that they're trolling around at the same time, and all catching fish generally when they're on the bite, or anchored up and doing the same thing. Remember the bag limit's 3, and with mackerel, because you're beaten on the head, please don't upgrade, because once you've got your 3, that's it, pretty well. You can't throw them back and let them swim away. Unless you pass into someone else's boat, you're meant to do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I always take my kids with me. They love fishing now, so there's a couple extra fish. Yeah. But they're young adults now. Yeah, so but that's probably about it, guys. But just be careful. I think how many people get boats under 4.5 metres? A couple of you have. So jet ski, yeah. Jet skis are not too bad, but with yourself, mate, just anything over 1.5 metres or anything over 15 knots, just be a bit cautious. Yeah. We went out on the Tuesday morning when we went out. Who went out that day on the Tuesday last week? Some people went out. There's a bit of swell on, right? Yeah. On the last run out tide. We had one big one stood right across the sea. I said, and it was in front of us like about 30 metres still. We're at 100 metres past the wall, but it was like 16 foot deep. And this big one just stood right up, hard up, and we had to go around it. I got a 4.8 metre tinny. So we gunned it, just like up and up and up and up and over it. But you just got to be careful. But the swell was 4 metres on the sets the other day. So it was probably the odd freak. It was a set that come through, let me tell you. It was a good sized wave. Yeah. Pretty out. Just be careful. Simple as that. And make sure you get your safety gear. Okay. And mackerel's 75 centimetres for Spanish. Spotties is 60 and bag limit's 5 or 4?
I think it's 3 Spanish, isn't it?
3 Spanish for Spotties.
I think it's 5.
5, is it?
I think.
Does anyone know what that is? 5.
It is 5, yeah.
We're supposed to know. Anyhow, so it's, when they're on, it's quite easy to get. But you don't get many spotties here that are like under 75. You know, generally they're decent size. Yeah. Like 80, 90 metres average sort of thing. So, which just tastes better, spotties and Spanish. Both are very good. Yeah. And if you want to try something different, cooking it up, just jump on our YouTube thing. Have a look at the teriyaki mackerel one. It's really easy to make, and it's so nice. So,
I did that.
You did it? You tried
It
it?
is good.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's good. Yeah, good. Thank you. Have a look at it, because it's really good. Different to just deep frying it. Yep. Okay, we're going to do the draw. Thank you. Fantastic. Thanks, Stu.
Thanks, man.
Well done, mate. But I love mackerel fishing, guys, especially like gear. I just love casted metals and hearing those little reels scream off. It's so good. Or when you troll them for Spanish, they go hard too. Okay, so we have got a bit of gear here. So we're going to do the draw, guys. Get Stewie to do it. I'm going to call your name out, and it'll be from first prize working back down to 6th prize. There's a bit over $800 for the gear here in total tonight. And we are going to start with whoever gets pulled out of here, Stuart. Just remember, guys, everything's 30% off tonight, or till the next seminar, which will be a couple of weeks away.
Number 24.
Except for reels.
Grant.
24. Grant. Yep, well done, mate. Oh, one thing I didn't talk about was rod buckets. Got any, Grant? Well done, mate. Thank you, sir. Cheers, mate. Just with rod buckets, guys, you need some for Spanish. They really do give you a bit of curry, unless you've got an iron gut. You just need something just cheap like that. That's all you need to get you in trouble. And if you want to go a bit bigger, that's about as big as you want to go. Or a black magic belt, maybe. But they're sort of like not going to be over 20 kilos, generally speaking. But when you get a couple, after a couple, you get a bit sore. Just let you know that too.
Number 19.
19 is Aaron Davery. Well done, Aaron. Mate, the boys down the back are smashing it. Good here, buddy. Thanks, Aaron. Cheers, mate. That's yours, mate. Okay, third one. Oh, third's gone missing. Oh, it might be the... Third, okay. Third, which is still $150 worth around about, I think. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Sorry, Stuart. And guys, thanks for coming along tonight.
Thank you.
This is actually the easy seminar. Bait rigging's the hard one.
Yeah. One up the front this time, number 2.
Number 2, well done, young fella. I think you've done well last time too. Well done, mate. Thank you. Pays to come late sometimes. Okay, next time we got is some more lures and stuff, and it's going to be hey guys, I wish I could do something for the weather for you guys, but I can't. It's just the way it is, that it's so frustrating for all of us because we're all fishermen. It's very frustrating. Well, yeah, but the ground's getting too wet. But you can do that, yeah.
Number 14.
Number 14 is Mick Farrell's mate. Oh, yeah, there you go, buddy. Anyway, well done, mate. Cheers, mate. Thank you. So, okay, next one. We've still got a couple of lures. Stuart.
Number 5.
Number 5 is Brian Taylor. Well done, Brian. Thanks, mate. That's for saying the recipe was nice. That's for saying our recipe was nice. Thank you. And we still got more lures. Okay, last one. Thank you, Stuart.
Number 10.
Number 10, Stuart, is Jason
Jason.
Stephenson. Well done, Jace. Thanks, matey. Cheers, mate. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, everyone, thanks for coming along. Bear with the weather. Get your gear ready. And next weekend might be a bit of a goer. The fish are coming along. You can see it on the chart. So, give it a go. But if you need anything you want in the interim, we're here. Okay?
Yep.
And the next seminar, guys, let you know, it's about bait trolling. Again, I love bait trolling too, but it will work now, but it's predominantly over the next sort of 6 weeks or 2-3 months. So we cover rigging up like gar, saris and slimies and stuff like that, and then we go into pillies. So that's for Spanish, and then we go into troll and pillies with pink skirts for spotties, which you see lots of guys on kayaks and those guys doing it. Same rig as we use, and then we talk about float lining for pillies at anchor and drifting. Okay, so there's no lures at all, strictly just bait, and it's a fairly big part of the scenario, especially float lining. Yeah, so we do that as well. But I've got a bit of a deal for you guys too. The hard body that you got in your brown bag. So if you guys get any decent fish on there, and I don't want the fish lure from another lure and change the lure over, but we'll randomly pull out the photos. So you can send it to just out to our. Do you want to add it to the tag it on our on this seminar one? So on this seminar one that went out just this week about an update on the seminar on tonight, if you can just post a photo on there, and then I'll draw it out, and it's about $200 or $300 for the lures that you'll get for whatever we pull out of the hat. But it has to be caught on the lure in the bag, okay? And I'll give you a month to do it. Okay, so it'll be drawn actually I'll give you 3 weeks, but if the weather's crap, I'll give you a month and a half. Actually, better just make it a month and a half because the weather's going to be crap, I think. But we'll probably do it on the draw of the. I think we got one on the 27th,
27th.
is it?
Or 24th.
24th. Okay. Well, the one after that'll be probably the March. 3rd of March. Okay, 3rd of March. We'll do it that night. We'll draw it. You have to be here. Let's do it live. So tell you who won it. Okay. So it'll be $300 for the lures and bits of gear. Okay. So please try and get one of those lures. Okay, guys. Good luck out there. We'll be downstairs now if you need us. Thank you, Stewie. Thanks, guys, for coming along. Thank you.